Good evening, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's a very festive one this evening. Welcome to the JN Circle Life Class Series. This is class number 3, and we are super excited, as you can tell, to be kicking off tonight's conversation on a virtually Merry Christmas, your guide to celebrating. I am beyond excited, as you can tell, to be talking about not only festivities, but also about helping us to cope for those of us for whom the season is not so merry. So, this evening we have a stellar lineup, and I'm going to be doing the introductions momentarily, but please grab yourself something very festive to drink. Make yourselves comfortable. It's going to be a 2-hour conversation and it's going to be amazing. And tonight we just want to big up again the JN Circle and the JN Group for hosting us and for creating this absolutely fantabulous space for us to share and support each other, especially at this very pivotal time in 2020. All right? So let me throw over to share screen one more time just to give us a grounding for how the conversation will go this evening and who are the absolutely amazing members of our Jamaican and diaspora family who are going to be guiding us through this evening's conversation. So as usual, in true Zoom fashion, I'm going to ask you to tell me, can you share my screen? Can you see my screen rather? Anybody please just drop me a chat, drop me something in the chat to let me know if you can. So I know I'm on the right, okay, perfect. All righty, so as I mentioned, our topic this evening is a virtually Merry Christmas, your entire guide to celebrating. And I am your host, Kamala McWinney. I am a therapist and coach, and you can find me online at White Lotus Blooms. And this evening, as I mentioned, I'm really, truly grateful and so excited and proud of the stellar lineup we have in terms of panelists. We have for segment 1, Professor Rayne Jarrett, who's a mindful parenting coach and a professor of social and behavioral sciences. She's also one of our diaspora champions. We'll tell you more about that. We also have the beautiful and gracious Stephanie Belmay. She is a dance movement therapist and a licensed mental health clinician. Then we're going to go over to Dr. Patrice Charles, who is the owner of the Phoenix Counseling Center right here in Jamaica. Then we have the powerful Ophelia Mcknight, who is event planner extraordinaire and also president of the Jamaica Wedding Professionals Association. Then, because Christmas is about celebrating love of food and eating enough nice things, we also welcome Chef Theo Smith later in the program, who is catering executive at Great House Caterers Limited. Another couple of things to bear in mind, we love to keep a very interactive segment for our entire time here at the JN Life class. So a couple housekeeping matters. Let's remember, we are here for you. So we're going to be allowing you to utilize the question and answer, the Q&A feature. In that box, you can drop whatever questions you have specifically for our panelists to answer, okay? So those are for questions. We are looking forward to all your questions this evening, and we're going to promise you that we will answer as many of them as is possible. And the chat feature is just to keep the vibes going. So just drop, your responses, your thoughts out loud in the chat feature. You'll also have a chance to, see some of the gems that we're distilling from our conversation this evening in the chat. Then there is the raise hand feature. If you would love to come on microphone, so come on stage as it were, you can raise your hand using the raise hand feature. We will unmute you and we will allow you to come on stage and ask a question of any one of our panelists. So without further ado, let me stop sharing screen and welcome the wonderful Professor Rayne Jarrett and Stephanie Belmay to join us. And then for segment 2, right, you're going to be joining Ophelia Mcknight. Show us your face, Ophelia, for this first segment so we can welcome all of you. We're going to be having Ophelia and Dr. Patrice Charles, who is looking radiant red, for segment number 2. And then we're going to be asking Chef Theo to come in his red also for the last segment where we're going to be decking the halls, right, with all things festive. Chef Theo, let us grace us with your presence, please. So we can say hello until we see you guys for the next segment. All right, howdy. And aren't our panelists looking absolutely stunning this evening? We didn't send out a memo about the red, but as you can see, it's one spirit, as we say in Jamaica, right? So Dr. Patrice and Chef Theo will see you in a few, and Ophelia. So we're gonna spotlight onto Prof. Rayne and Stephanie for our first segment. So welcome on stage, ladies. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to join us in the live class series. Prof. Rayne is no stranger. She was actually on season 1 and she's back again with an amazing energy. She's so excited about this conversation, right?
I am. I really am. There's just so much to share, so much to delve into.
Absolutely.
Happy and excited to get into it.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm happy to be
Before
here
we
with
go
you and
into the
Stephanie and Jana.
introductions with all of our festivities, I'm going to just ask our tech team to launch our poll questions. So it's live now. There are 5 very simple questions for you to give us your feedback on how you're feeling, what you're looking forward to from this class. And then there's going to be a post-class poll just to get some sense of, how did the class land for you? Did we support you the way you want to? And to get a sense of how you're feeling open to moving forward. All right, so in a few minutes, I will be sharing with you the results of the poll. But now, Rayne and Stephanie, thanks again. How are you guys doing on today?
Thank you so much, Kamal, for having us. This is really, really a great place to be in and be in community in this way.
Yes.
Exciting. I am good, and I'm happy to be here with my soul sister Stephanie, who I've known for so long.
Yes.
And Kamala has become a soul sister for us. So we're just all around good vibes and happy and excited. I've had a long day. There's a lot going on. I'm in Florida and COVID numbers are soaring here. So there is a general angst and a vibe despite it being the holidays. But I'm well, I'm blessed, I'm healthy. A lot going on in my personal life as well. But happy to be here and excited and just feeling good in general and excited about the holidays. Yeah.
Awesome. Stephanie, how was your day been?
It's been really good. I currently live in Boston, Massachusetts, and recently came home, which is Jamaica.
Welcome home. We're happy you're back.
Thank you. So I'm in that quarantine phase and just kind of easing back into, being home after not being here for almost a year, not seeing family and friends. So again, very excited to kind of get into this larger conversation of how the past couple of months and just this time of year, what does it typically mean for us in the diaspora? So I am ready up.
Ready up. I love it. Love it. Now, for all our viewers, we're very mindful that, I'm wearing my reindeer glasses. Brian said I'm the newest member of the reindeer family. I own it, right? Stephanie has on her ornament earrings and Rayne is fully rocking her Christmas headband. So we are excited. For me, I'm excited about the holiday season. But of course, because hashtag JN Cares, we're very mindful that not everyone feels the same way about the holiday. So we're going to be having some real and some hearty conversations this evening about how we can support each other. And I'm very mindful to remind us to spread that common theme of generosity throughout this season. So we're going to learn better how to support other persons for whom this may be a really tough time, right? So we're keeping it 100% real tonight. And we're inviting all of our audience family to jump in with your real questions and your real scenarios. We're not afraid of them. And we have experts, okay, who are going to be sharing with us in terms of, resources for how we can manage. So I'm about to introduce the speakers more in depth, but first, let us get a sense of how the room is doing. So our first question, Prof. Rayne and Stephanie, how would you describe your current mood? We start with this every week. And about 48% of persons say they're okay, 42% say happy, 2% say ecstatic, and we have 1 respondent who's feeling sad and 2 who are feeling miserable. And we're just sending you lots of beautiful blue and yellow JN energy this evening. We fully can understand that not everybody's feeling as perky, and it's okay. Question 2, how are you feeling about the upcoming holiday season? 21% excited, 40% okay, 27% neutral, and 6% sad, 4% anxious. And we've got all of you. We've got you covered. Do the holidays bring up sad memories or trauma for any of you who are in our audience this evening? 63% of you say no, 29% say sort of, and 6% say yes. And again, that's why we're having tonight's segment, to provide resources for all of us. What are you expecting from this class? 46% say ways to be creative in celebrating the holidays in pandemic. 13% say tips on how to make the holidays exciting for my child or children. And 42% tips on how to cope with some of the very real challenges that the holiday season will bring. And finally, I feel like this year has taught me to focus on the deeper meaning of the season. 63% of you say yes, 29% say sort of, and 8% of you say no. And we had a sense that after a year like 2020, coming to the end of a year like this, the majority of us are reflecting on the true meaning of the season and looking forward to tap into, the more, what should I say, sentimental as opposed to commercial aspects of the season. Yeah. So let me tell you who you're talking to. Two heavyweight ladies this evening. Prof. Rayne Jarrett is a professor of behavioral and social sciences with over 10 years of experience in the classroom. She has extensive knowledge, right, in all things behavioral, and she has been busy creating curricula for the US and in other parts of the world. She's a parent, so she's going to be speaking to us practically from her experience this evening. She's passionate also about human development, and she has dedicated so much of her resources to championing support of the diaspora in her neck of the woods in Florida. So we welcome Prof. Rayne with her wealth of experience and her warmth. And then Stephanie Belmay, this Jamaican who also lives overseas. She is a board certified, a board eligible dance movement therapist. She's also an infant and early childhood mental health clinician, a disability advocate, and an independent photographer. So she is fully on the artsy scale as well as on the heartsy scale in supporting so many other persons. She also does a lot of work on trauma-focused generational healing and creative wellness for Black and Indigenous persons of color. So heavyweights were doing amazing in their areas. So let me start off by just asking Prof. Rayne, as a parent yourself, Prof, is there any way in which you have been a little bit anxious about what the holiday season might look like for your child at this time?
Even outside of the holidays, Kamala, it's been a year unlike any other. The demands of life before COVID were fast-paced and life was busy and all that came with the demands of that. And then COVID hit, and so now our sense of safety and security has sort of been pulled from under us, that went through the door. So even without just focusing on the holidays, which sort of crept up for us, we've had a lot of other things that we've been grappling with and working through with Noah, my daughter, who is 7, as she's been doing school from home for the last 8 months, almost a year. So this has been another thing for us to think about and to come up with creative ways to have some joy in a very unusual time, in a time that we are all trying to make sense of, in a time that we are all unsure about what the future looks like, and uncertainty brings a tremendous amount of anxiety. And so our children are also grappling with many of the things that we're struggling with, the uncertainty of not knowing what is the future going to look like. Are we safe every time we leave our homes? What is school going to look like? Are our children going back to school? There's been so much leading up to the holidays, and I just wanted to make mention of that. So we have been very intentional. It's a family tradition for us to be very festive around the holidays and to come together as a family, because life keeps us so busy and so separated sometimes. And so we've really had to sit down and had some very candid, some very open, some very age-appropriate conversations as a family about what we're experiencing, how we're feeling, and how we can make the holiday special. Our children are humans, they're small human beings. And so they have the range of emotions that we have, but they don't have the coping skills, and they don't always have the ability to verbalize and to communicate what they're going through. So it's often more difficult for our children, and they're really going through it. They're really struggling. So we have tried to have those open conversations, but to be very practical in how we plan to spend the holidays, given that COVID is a true threat for all of us, but especially for us in Florida. We are one of the states with the highest COVID numbers in the country, in the nation, right? So there is that real threat of catching this virus. And so, yeah, we've had those conversations, and we're doing things like coming up with new traditions. So we've created a Christmas music list that we play every day. Music is like medicine to our mind and our soul. So we incorporate music as much as we can. We've been playing Christmas carols for about 3 weeks now, We have tried to be creative in decorating our home. Not everyone has the income to go all out, but you can be creative in what you do in terms of the decor. And really trying to go out as much as possible. We don't have the ability to do the things that we would normally do because of COVID, of course, but we still go on drive outs and we still go and look at homes who have decorated their lights, and we try and spend as much time in nature, for example. So we are finding ways and be intentional about finding ways to be creative and enjoying the season.
Yeah. One of my thoughts is that when I was a child, the Christmas was such a magical time. It just seemed like everything was better at that time.
Yes.
And I can just imagine now the weirdness that the children are likely experiencing in terms of, so I see a lot of people who look sad, mommy. Is it okay for us to truly be happy during this season? Will things be the way they usually are? And then the other piece of it that I can imagine is that so many parents are wondering, can I afford to, as you mentioned, for free, can I afford to keep the same level of celebration as we did, for example, in 2019, in terms of gift buying or gift giving, perhaps traveling for the season? Another consideration.
Yeah, that's such a real concern. I mean, for the United States, the last time I checked, the statistics were that 37 million people were without jobs in this country. That is a real reality, that people are trying to figure out how they're going to pay their bills and how they're going to put food on the table. And meanwhile, they have their children who have been living at home, no social interaction with their friends, not having that peer socialization that's so important. And how do I make it festive? And so, back to my point, it's okay to be honest with your children and to say, in a very age appropriate way, this is what is happening for us, and this is how mommy is feeling. Mommy is a little sad, but we're all in this together. Validating the experience that our children are going through is huge, because we often don't see them and we don't hear them. And I think that is a cultural challenge, particularly for Jamaicans, who I was raised, you as a child are seen and not heard, right? That there is a place for children, that we don't talk about your emotions. Like, who has time for that? So I think it's a time for us really to see and hear our children, and we'll talk a little bit about some mindful strategies. But the power of presence is so important now than ever before, really having that present time with our children as a way to reconnect with them.
Yes.
And just creating space for them to have conversation. And if they say, mommy, I'm sad, say, you know what, I understand. And I've been sad too. This has been a lot for all of us. And, validate how they're feeling, validate their emotions. Yeah, huge.
And for Rayne, and I'm going to throw over to Stephanie for this piece of it. For so long, we've been hearing this old proverb or this adage that says we should celebrate presence, presence, over presence with the NTS. And so now, I mean, at this time, that's such a crucial pivoting, to take, because some people will not be able, Stephanie, to do the typical, the iPhones or the new sneakers or whatever it might be for the holidays, right? But now is where I think we have an opportunity to redefine what is this season really all about. Is it about only gift wrapping and putting things under a Christmas tree? So Stephanie, in your experience, talk us through, how you have seen perhaps some of your clients having had to be shifting at this point.
You both are touching on some really, really important things. And oftentimes in my role coming in as a therapist, and I do a lot of work, relational work with parents and infants, parents and young kids, sometimes intergenerationally, looking at how, your mother may parent how different from how you parent. And also putting it into context, Kamala, that this has been a very intense, it has been a year. I think everybody has their definition of what 2020 has been for them. And so, within the context of this particular holiday, I feel like there's often a theme of reflection and tradition and togetherness. But for a lot of parents, they have been juggling so many hats and stretching themselves in so many ways that perhaps they didn't even know that they had capacity for from March till now. And so really, one of the points that Rayne mentioned about like emotional intelligence and transparency with your children is it's something that I really try to center and support some of the parents that I'm working with. Someone who's I'm not a parent myself, and so I definitely am grounded in my role as a support. But it's working with parents to understand for themselves, what are some great things that, have happened this year, and what are the hard things? So being honest with themselves, and also as Rayne mentioned, in an age appropriate way. And for that, it may not come out great sometimes in terms of how we're communicating with our kids. You know, there's no checklist of like, okay, I said this right. Sometimes, especially this year, thinking of like all the challenges that many people continue to face, I think just having an awareness of your role, how it is that your child or the persons who are supporting, because it may not necessarily be biological children, you may be a teacher who, again, thinking of community, may be a caregiver, a primary caregiver for kids. How is that potentially they may view you, and how can you build on these relationships? And shifting this idea of, is it, as you said, presence? Is it a monetary thing, or is it, for Christmas, all I would love is a handwritten card? Let's send some cards out to family members all over the world and stay connected in this way. And so, because I think a lot of people have had to pivot, and when I say that, I don't mean that by pivoting, it means that you're this new whole person who is like balancing everything perfectly. But people have had to readjust financial expectations. They've had to adjust relationships, acknowledge hardships, or maybe encounter things that they never thought they would have had to encounter in terms of relationships. Maybe a lot of parents that I do work with, they, question their ability to parent, and so providing support, and also beyond therapy, who are the natural supports in their circle that they can lean on, and being intentional about how you set boundaries with that and how you ask for help. I think that's one of the biggest things, going back from a cultural context. It's hard, you don't want to share your business with nobody. You don't want, talk up, but this is not a normal year. This is not a normal time. I don't know when a sense of normalcy will emerge. Maybe it has already for some, but again, it's not a tangible, generalized thing. So how do we continue to pivot and be flexible as things are flowing? And this particular time of year, with the social connotation of, joy and happiness, acknowledging that like some folks may have a limited capacity to be able to join in those spaces. And how do we support those folks as well in our families? And even for kids, modeling the not so favorable emotions like anger, sadness, frustration, because no, we just want you to smile and you're Sunday best and you look good, you're happy, but internally you may not necessarily be. So as parents, figuring out along the way, how do we be honest with ourselves, or how do they be honest with themselves, and provide space for themselves as they're providing space for their kids to be able to explore all the feelings that they may have, even if they're really, really hard to hold for them.
Yeah, and to validate that. Can I add something to that, Kamala? So well said. Stephanie is such an amazing woman and therapist in the work that she does. I'm so happy to have her on this session. But I just want to speak from that personal experience and to say that being a parent is one of the hardest things you will ever do, right? And it's also one of the most beautiful experiences that you'll ever have. But it's been difficult for parents for multiple reasons, one of which Stephanie shared, that now, before we had the physical brick and mortar building of a school, of a classroom that allowed us some separation from our children. God love them, but we need that time and separation. We had the physical separation of our offices, right? Which we no longer have. Those have been collapsed. And so we're now all coexisting in this space. And we know also that this is the busiest we've ever been, and it's the slowest it will ever get. So COVID or not, we are existing in this very busy global culture, right? I think I'm busier than I've ever been. But I think to your point, Kamala, the presence point is so big. That is a main facet and component of mindfulness. When we think about what mindfulness is, and I'll just spend 2 minutes, people have very differing definitions, but it's really the act of and the practice of paying attention, that is bringing the awareness in the moment, that's the presence, intentionally, without judgment. So as a mindful parenting coach or somebody who implements mindfulness, it is essentially taking those principles of mindfulness and integrating them into your parenting, into situations that might feel kind of crazy and a bit overwhelming and difficult to manage. And this is the perfect example. And so for me, mindfulness has allowed me to be a calmer parent, to parent with more calm. But when we talk about presence, to bring it down to something practical, we have far moving away from the act of presence. Presence is something now that we have to intentionally bring into our lives, right? If you think about any point in any given day, you're multitasking. Multitasking is revered, right? It's celebrated. How good are you at multitasking? But it is not effective. It increases our frustration. We're just always doing too much, right? And so this really is the time to be present with ourselves, with our children. If anyone talks about the benefits and the good things about the pandemic, if you can, presence is one of those things. It's the ability to reconnect with our children. You know, we spend an average of 34 to 37 minutes a day with our children. Think about that. And when we do, we're multitasking, we're checking our phones and we're fixing them. You know, we're trying to spend time with them, but they see our distractedness and they feel our distractedness. And that distractedness comes at the expense of connection with our children. So, you know, strategies like mindfulness help to bring back that presence in the ultra busy epidemic of busyness, this global culture. It's really a time for us to slow down and to, as I mentioned, reconnect with ourselves and with our children and our loved ones. And that would be my first call to action, to commit over this holiday season to spending more quality time with your children, not time with the cell phone, but really just say, I'm going to take 15 minutes without checking Instagram, without checking my email, without checking WhatsApp, and literally leave your phone, right? And go and spend some time with your children. And I think that would work miracles with your relationship. And it would reinstill that sense of safety and security for them, this thing that is fleeting for them as children. You know, their children are experiencing anxiety now unlike any other time that I can recall in my years of living, right? And it's because they are missing that sense of safety and security and their level of uncertainty, you know, not knowing what is going to happen. And then when they come to us for answers, we don't have anything to tell them either, right? So that is a very helpful, practical tip that I would offer. And it doesn't cost anything, just be present with your children. It might be difficult at first. All the things, Lord, I could be doing this, I could be working on this. It's going to create some practice, it's going to require some practice, but it can be life-changing and really reinstill that connection with you and your children. Yeah.
And you know, one of the things I want us to be mindful of for our conversation this evening is the fact that there are so many different family units, so many different structures. So of course, we have some families that is one parent and the child or children. We have some structures where, for whatever reasons, maybe separation of the, you know, the union. We may have one parent living away from the child or children. Perhaps it could have been a situation where, you know, when you have custody issues, for example, this could have been the holiday where one parent was supposed to be hosting, to be having the children present with them. And because of travel restrictions, etc., that might not be the case. So I want to throw over to Stephanie to talk to us about the different ways that parenting can look right now in the pandemic and how we can, even if we're not parents, the fact that we can extend some help and some support to people who may be having that particular concern right now.
Absolutely. And this may not necessarily be favorable with maybe, say my parents' age generation, but I oftentimes ask the parents that I'm working with, you know, whose perspective are we considering? Are we asking our kids kind of what are they wanting? How are they feeling? Kind of bringing the questions back in to them. So for example, this time of year, just as you mentioned, there's so many, particularly because of this year, there's so many ways in which family structures, family cultures have been impacted, whether, as you said, it's through divorce or separation. If, you know, I worked with a lot of parents who are essential workers and who have not seen their kids, their parents for months because of safety precautions. I work with some families as well who, you know, gave birth, an amazing, happy experience. Usually, you know, a baby coming into this world, you know, is usually a welcomed thing, and not having their partner with them, not having their husband, or, you know, all the different ways in which that, you know, this year has taken essentially a lot of things. And so asking them to really asking them to really ask the kids, for example, to be reflective and how it is that we can change this, or not even change, shift, pivot, and make this Christmas holiday feel more inclusive and collaborative. And when I say collaborative, I mean everyone or most voices are at the table. You know, we usually typically we can and openly reflect on what have we lost and what are we gonna gain this year, you know. So we may not have the big family dinner with everyone, and we may not be able to physically be together, but this year we're gonna go virtual and we can have fun with that. Or we're not having presents this year. We're going to go somewhere, you know, do a staycation if you are here. And I think also just to name as well, parents, there's parents, the context of parents, but I also want to acknowledge caregivers because I also work with a lot of uncles and aunts and cousins or older cousins who also are primary caregivers for young kids or for children or adult kids, you know, and who have a strong presence in their lives as well. And so again, establishing this space of collaboration and conversation and acknowledgement in terms of how can we still be inclusive and have these support systems still be a part of our experience. And then also knowing that when there are boundaries set, how do we respect those? I mean, because of COVID, there literally is physical restrictions that we have to abide by.
That's an
But how do
important.
we navigate that and be creative as well? So maybe, you know, Christmas Eve, it's with your uncles and aunts, and we're gonna do something different this Christmas. You know, reestablish traditions, recreate them, and come from a place that's strength-based and joyous. You know, again, knowing that not everyone will be able to join us there. So I like to really encourage folks to really have the conversation. And again, gauging for yourself, is it hard for me to hold the harder responses? And what is that about? You know, is that my own stuff, or how can I switch that to be able to model? You know, I hear what you're saying about like this not feeling like a joyous or like a regular Christmas time, Jason, but how can we find one good thing about that we're looking forward to this Christmas, or one way that we can spend time together? I think definitely it gets trickier and trickier as we have blended families. We have families who are separated due to divorce. And so because of the travel restrictions, you know, how can we lean on things like Zoom? It's not the same, you know, it's not the same, but that's also where I encourage folks to lean on their support systems to wrap around. So if you're the parent, for example, that is not going to be able to see your kids or see your family, your parents this Christmas, what are some other supportive spaces that you can lean on? And sometimes we have to ask for help. Sometimes we really have to, you know, step in and say, you know what, I thought I could do this and I'm really struggling. Can we have a cup of coffee?
Here, the fact that for some of us as Caribbean people, it can feel like almost like a mark of failure or shame for us to say, I need some help. And so this is why I love the life class space, because I feel like we're in many ways normalizing the fact that we all need each other in order for us to actually thrive together for this very strange season. You know, it's really important for us to link arms and share resources throughout the community. So I love that I have, you know, Prof. Rayne on, who's based in the States, and you also, who, you know, you're between both right now. To realize that we're all one community and we need each other. And no, like sometimes I feel like it can be so tempting to feel as though I'm alone. My story is so different from everybody else's story. But as we're going to be sharing this evening, we'll see that so many of us are having almost identical stories. And so when we normalize talking about them openly, it kind of reduces the stigma, reduces whatever fears there might be, and it allows for us to really share freely in terms of resources.
Absolutely. I wanted to just piggyback really quickly on that sense of community. I am finding that is what people are struggling with the most, the lack of community. And people are finding community in non-traditional spaces. So I work with a union, for example, and we're working with unionizing professors here in the United States. And people share every week on our leadership call how much this union means to them. Because for many of them, this is the only opportunity they get to connect with people. People are living here in a single apartment with no family and no connection to any friends or any sort of community whatsoever. And so these non-traditional communities have really become that grounding force for some people. And I you know, to your point, it tends to be a cultural value for us to solve things on our own and to hold things in and to figure it out, right? For shame or for you know, a sign of failure or whatever. But I found that when you are vulnerable, when you are really truly able to open up, you are often surprised at the pouring of love and support that you experience. I hear that more often than I do the opposite, and I've experienced it myself. It's really an important acknowledgement to come to when you say, I've been feeling this sort of way. Some people know exactly why, it's the social isolation, it's not being able to, connect with family. Some people are waking up with a heaviness and they quite can't vocalize what it is.
Yes.
But when it's time, when it's too long, and when it comes to a point of needing to say something, and that something is, I need some help, I can't do it alone, and there's no shaming doing that. Absolutely.
I just also wanted to add to that. I think sometimes for varying reasons, people think like anxiety, depression, feeling overwhelmed looks a certain way. And so I oftentimes, again, going back to our support circle, and I know this is life circle, is encouraging folks to, reach out anyway. Reach out to family and friends anyway. Whether it is you feeling great today, or you don't even realize you're feeling great, but you just want to talk to someone, reach out anyway, because we never know how the people in our life hold space for us. And sometimes they can pick up on things, but they're also human. Yes. So I oftentimes tell people, reach out anyway, regardless of when you feel, you're feeling, you're really, really missing this person, or you had a terrible day or a lot. In my house, like as Rayne mentioned, social isolation, which I think is like one of the main words of this year, main concepts or themes of this year. Just reach out anyway. Just reach out, and ask permission. Yeah, but you have a second. I just want, just feel my spirit, just feel to call you, or just feel to reach out, because you never know. Also for that person, how you could be a support as well. Kind of extending it beyond just the parent-child relationship, but again, building community. It's a two-way. Healthily, it's a two-way street. I just wanted to offer that as well.
Yes, I see a couple hands raised, and of course, we definitely are looking forward to giving some real-time support to the members of our family. I see one of the hands just went down, so maybe it was an accident. I see Rose Miller. Is your hand up, Rose? Do you have a question? Would you like to come on micro to ask your question of our panelists? I think that might have been an error as well with the raise hand feature, but there is a question in the chat box, Rayne and Stephanie, coming from Tajare. Tajare's question is, what tip could you give to parents, I imagine she's saying, who are miles away from their child or children, don't see them for years, and all that child needs is the love and affection, but the parents are blind to see it. So I feel like this question is such a very important one, because in some ways we are maybe assuming that parents, we're starting from the baseline that parents will see and will have that natural reaction to say, my child needs me in this moment. But suppose there is that damaged relationship, and the child is feeling as though, even if it's an adult child, could be feeling as though, well, if my parent or parents are not giving this naturally, should I reach out? How could we tackle that? I'm going to throw to Stephanie. In the work that you're doing, do you see this kind of a damaged relationship sometimes between parent and child?
Absolutely. And I think it's really important, as you said, to really consider perspective. Definitely the expressed perspective of the child and what is also shared by the parent. I think also as well, stepping back a little bit further and thinking perhaps how it is that this parent was parented, or wasn't. Is that a factor? Are there also socioeconomic factors that have limited their ability to make contact, whether virtually, over the phone, in these different ways? And also, is there trauma? Is there any kind of complex trauma or childhood trauma that may be impacting the parents' ability to show up and be present? And perhaps for them, they may feel like, okay, I've done enough. Like, you're settled, you're good at checking in this way, and you're okay. And where are the points to bridge communication naturally? So perhaps there needs to be some more support, but this is a very, very, as someone who lives abroad, and actually my immediate family lives in Jamaica, trying to break away the layers, as opposed to, as you said, it's easy for us to maybe make assumptions about why it is that situations are the way they are. And so, as if you are someone who, is a supportive person to the child, perhaps it's maybe the work isn't so much outwardly to the parent, but maybe supporting the child with maybe seeing a therapist or building up their support system for their own, if that's not something that's actively attainable with rebuilding or repairing or reconciling any relationship with the parent. But I think, trying to be as limited in our judgment, because sometimes that can hinder the any reparative process as well. But if you do have access to this child and there's a strong relationship, or it's an adult as well, I would encourage them to seek some support around it, on their own, independent of a family member, because oftentimes, especially culturally, we kind of lean on our family as our therapist, and that's complicated. So, and also as well, if you're not someone who's inclined to see a therapist, it may be seeing someone within the religious sector, like a pastor, or maybe just a external kind of family member who can be objective and provide support in this way. I think every situation is very different, but again, really gauging with whose perspectives we're considering and trying to remain objective in that. And then what are additional external supports that we could maybe, you can't force anyone to be in a relationship, and it can be the relationship that you want for them. As much as we may want that just may not necessarily be their path or their journey.
So true. And that's a hard truth, Stephanie. But I'm going to throw it to Rayne, and then I'm going to give my 2 cents on that piece, because it's a very, very powerful experience that I think a lot of people have. And to try to tackle it throughout this holiday season can be a little bit daunting, but I want to hear Prof. Rayne's input on this piece, and then I'll kind of summarize what I hear you ladies saying so far.
Yeah, so Stephanie shared some great insight, and I would piggyback on that to say, try to open a bridge of communication with this parent and child. That would be the first point of attempt. And if that is not possible for multiple reasons, right? Stephanie shared a few of them. You don't know what the narrative is for the parent and why perhaps they're not able to foster that relationship. There's a lot that can be happening to prevent that open communication and relationship and bonding. Try to provide support for yourself, right? That you can work on being okay despite of. There's no replacing a parent's love, and I can speak, and anybody can agree with that, but you have to find a way to do the work and be okay, unfortunately, if you're not able to get what it is that you're seeking from your parent. And I have long been a proponent of mentors. I think mentorship is a tremendous opportunity to really provide a connection with a child and to provide some support and direction in ways that they probably wouldn't otherwise have. And I know that working in the diaspora here with Jamaican youth, there are a lot of mentorship programs, both in the diaspora, but also in Jamaica, where people can get in touch with mentors if they are interested. So I would say, take responsibility of your healing. Try to forge a relationship with that parent and to really communicate with them in a very authentic and true way. But to Stephanie's point, people aren't always open to that communication. So you have to find a way to be okay without having that, and doing the work on your own and getting the support that you need.
And trust me, that's hard, but it's part of life. It's part of adulting. It's part of owning the fact that, people will do what works best for them. And sometimes parents are those people who may do what's best for them, which may not be what is best for a child or children,
Absolutely. And sometimes when you have toxic relationships, you have to make a decision, unfortunately, to cut something that doesn't serve you in your life. And if you've made a true vested attempt to open the communication and to work on the relationship and it still is not working, then you might have to do some editing, unfortunately.
Editing, that's a very fancy term, Prof. Rayne. I like it. And Tajari is saying thank you in the chat. I'd love to hear, I'd love to see a show of by raising of hands, how many of our audience members are parents, and what, if any, are some of the concerns or the practices. How are you redefining the holidays?
Yes.
What you are doing, right?
Yes.
In your neck of the woods to make the holiday season more meaningful to you, despite the chaos of it all. And if you have any concerns that Prof. Rayne and Stephanie could address before we segue into the next segment, I want to hear all of them now, so we can make sure we give you real-time support. Let me see. Judine says, my son constantly says, Mommy, you have no time for me, while I am juggling 2 or more coursework that are due. How do I balance my final year of college while still being a supportive, present parent? Because I feel 15 minutes of presence is not really enough. I love that question, Judine. Thanks for trusting us with it. Prof. Rayne, I feel like you're ready to tackle it.
That is, I see myself in Jolene. Jolene, the struggle is real, and I know it's difficult. A couple of things I would want to share. When you are a parent juggling all the roles that you juggle, and I don't want to bore you all with all the hats that I wear, but I hear you, and I know, trust me, I know. Time management becomes crucially important, but also communicating your boundaries with your children, right? So I will have times where I have a 3-hour lecture, right? And my daughter is, out of school. And so I have to have these conversations, and I come up with ways to reiterate these boundaries with her. So we create signs, right, that she has on her door, that I have on mine. When she's in a session, she puts her sign up, and I know that she's busy. And similarly, she knows that I am busy. So again, it is having the open conversation that is age appropriate in a way that your children can understand. Mm-hmm. It's important that they feel included in what is happening in the house, right? Yes. Remember, children need, again, that safety and security, So when we're living in a pandemic, when uncertainty is higher than ever before, we have to create some amount of groundedness. And so keying our children in on the conversation, say, okay, listen, this is what is happening. How old is your son, Jolene? That would help, that would be helpful for me.
Judine, it's Judine.
Judine with a D, thank you.
Drop it in the chat or the Q&A, Judine will be happy to just tailor the response more,
Yeah, and as young as you can have this conversation with a 3-year-old in a way that they can understand. Right? He's 9. Okay, so he can have a conversation there can be an exchange, right? And if 15 minutes is what you have, and you can spend 15 minutes in a way that is present with your child, believe me, it will start to make a difference. But it's when you're spending the 15 minutes and you're thinking about the research that you didn't complete, and you're trying to remember if you sent off the email, that is when the time doesn't feel like enough. And that is when the guilt feels heavier than before. And then the judgment comes on, because you're back at, the desk doing the work, and you're guilty that you didn't spend the time with your children. So you really have to carve out the time, I have made shifts in my day where I can spend blocks of time with my daughter. She's 7, and she knows when those blocks are, right? Mm-hmm. So that I don't have the incessant nagging the entire day, because she knows this is Noah time, right? And when she feels as if she's not getting enough mommy time, we have over time developed that communication where she can say to me, just as your son has. And I think that is amazing that he has said that to you, that he can verbalize and he can trust you enough to say, I don't feel like he's spending enough time with me. So now the ball is in your court to create the time. And I think this is where time management will become really important. And including your son in the conversation, say to him, okay, this is what mommy's schedule looks like. This is what your schedule looks like. Let's come up with a plan together where we can carve out some mommy son time. And he will feel included in the process. And it's a start. And tell him, when mommy is done with school, I'll have a lot more time to spend with you. But right now, I really just have to give it my all. He'll appreciate the candid conversation, and he'll feel like he's a part of the process, and that you care, that you're spending time trying to figure out how to spend time, right? So, that will go a far way.
I also wanted to add to that as well, again, breaking generational traits is even in his response of saying, mommy, you don't have time for me, acknowledging and saying, actually, I thank you for letting me know how you're feeling. I hear you. And sometimes it's hard for mommy to hear this, but here's how we can maybe collaborate and work together, just as Rayne is saying, and create a structure and normalize transparency. Like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot. I need another 30 minutes with this assignment, but can we collaborate on what you can do while mommy is working or doing this? And then also asking him, what would you like to do? How would you like us to spend time? What do you like? What do you like that we're doing together, or that we haven't done? And maybe that could become an adventure for 2021.
For the holidays, it could be about 15 minutes more.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Stephanie. I see Brian Cobb also has a question for our panelists, and we're trying to tie it up. Brian says, a big challenge is the whole screen time, which has ballooned. How do we find the balance and also stave off concerns relating to too much screen time and how it can impact them? And thank you very much, Faith, for adding nicely to that. question. She says maybe level set the time that you have up front, okay? Because I think it's important to help them to frame the conversation, to say, okay, we have 15 minutes and we're going to make it awesome. Managing expectations kindly, I think, is a piece of that as well. But in terms of screen time, Prof. Rayne and Stephanie, quickly, how can we help our parents to manage that? Because I mean.
The struggle is so real. It's something that we are working actively on as well. And the honest answer, Kamal, is it's not easy, because every strategy and tool that I can recommend requires some work and time on your part as the parent, which is time we often don't have. We're trying to juggle it all and make it work. And so the screen has really become a babysitter for us, which allows us the time and flexibility to get the work that we need done. So it requires some real genius strategy and planning. It requires coming up with activities that can replace that time, because it is a legitimate addiction, right? Screen addiction is just as addictive as caffeine and heroin for children. So it really becomes a problem when they're spending hours and hours and hours, but you don't have an alternative. So I think the first thing to do is to have a conversation with your child why it is problematic. And there is a tremendous amount of research as to why it is. It impacts mood, it affects your sleep, all these things, right?
All of it, yeah.
It's you know, and you can have this conversation with them and say, I know it's fun, I know it's what you enjoy to do, but it's not good for you. And I'm not taking it away, but I want us to have a conversation about having it, you know, in a healthier way, right? And try to take the time down little by little. So tell them how much time they have and allow them to choose. Do you want it in one lump sum, or do you want to break it up a little bit? Excellent. Give them options, right? Give them options, but start the conversation by explaining that you're not trying to be mean, that you're not trying to be cruel and take away the one thing that they love so much in their life, but that you have some concerns, and explain what those concerns are. And if your children are 9 and above, do the research with them and say, look at this. And I have some tremendous resources I can share with you if you really want to, go there with your children, and just come up with strategies. You have to have the time invested to come up with the activities that they can do on their own, but also that you can do with them to replace the screen time.
And Prof. Rayne, I'm going to invite you to drop your website in the chat so that persons who are on can access the resources that you and your team are crafting as it relates to mindful parenting. I know you're offering access to a mindful package, right? A starter package.
Free starter kit. So mindfulness has been such an instrumental surfboard for us in our lives to navigate the waves that keep coming faster and more frequently. And so Sky and I, my sister and business partner, have created a starter kit for parents and caregivers who are interested in delving into mindfulness. So I will drop that in the chat. Yes.
Over to Stephanie.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Rayne was saying is also, for parents also to be mindful of being able to model that as well. So I oftentimes talk to parents about, like, tell me what your day looks like from start to finish. When would it be a natural time that you'd want to unwind? And I use words like unplug, and start to use, again, we're thinking about age appropriate language. What is our unplug time as a family? And what we would normally like to do outside of watching. And parts of it could be watching a movie together or watching a series together.
That's right.
But this idea of like a Zoom break or a screen break, but not having feel like it's something, I agree with Rayne. It does take time and it is strategic, but you have the groundwork if you start to look at what your typical day looks like. And being very honest with yourself of like, boy, we don't really have no time to unplug, so which may make it harder to introduce this. But again, starting with what's the structures or what's the flow within your natural family culture. What does that look like on a day-to-day basis? And say, okay, and as Rayne said, there's amazing things that you can do if you have access to, a lot of people during COVID or during lockdown are becoming plant moms and dads, and introducing that to kids as well. Again, as a body-based practitioner, unplug could be like, we're gonna have a dance party, or we can turn on Fame. RJR and us have a whole dance party on a Friday evening as a family, or we cook together. But it's intentional in saying, as your parent or as a caregiver, I'm not on my phone, I'm not on the computer. It's where we're really just kind of I even have some parents who like turn off the Wi-Fi, but that's a little bit extreme.
A whole lot of life class. Prof. Rayne and Stephanie, let me just thank you. I was looking forward to this segment and you did not fail to deliver. I see Judine responding, saying, thank you all. I took notes and I appreciate it. Well said.
Great.
At
Great.
this point, I'm going to thank you both, but I'm also going to throw to a giveaway because we're in the JN Circle Life class and JN is caring, okay? So for all of you who are on the call who have a Digicel device, you have the chance right now to win $1,000 call credit to beef up your data, beef up your credit, connect with your family over the holidays, call some people are foreign. So take out your phones if you're not connecting with them for the live class. And here goes the voucher numbers for you to be able to access this. The numbers are 82973-5727-9823. And if you win, you know what to do. Make me know in the chat so we can celebrate with you. All right, that's for the Digicel owners. Final words from Prof. Rayne and Stephanie, 1 minute or less. What would you want to share with those especially who are in parenting or caregiving capacity for this season? You're muted, Rayne.
I was saying 1 minute or less. There is so much that we can share. Okay, so this is going to be my 1 minute. This is going to be my 1 minute. If you find that you yourself are feeling doom and gloom, and remember our children are going through the same struggles that we are, and they're less equipped to communicate, to verbalize, and to talk about it. Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Gratitude as a life skill is proven to combat doom and gloom, right? And we know that the happiest people in the world are the people who express the most gratitude, right? So there is a direct correlation, and there are multiple ways that you can incorporate gratitude in your day, right? You can talk about it in the morning when you're getting ready for school. You can talk about it at night. What are the things you're most grateful for? And it really creates this shift. We have a tendency to have a negativity bias, not just adults, but kids. If you notice, if children always complaining, we whine a lot. If we have a bad and a good version, we choose the bad one. And so there is a lot of scientific information that shows us the research, the shifts, the gratitude shifts, and how important it is for us to feel better in our mood, to improve how we're feeling, and small acts of kindness. If you're feeling womp, 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 and I actually have a book that I read to my daughter and my children and my clients about it. This is a really good one. Can you all see it? Bernice gets carried away. It's a really simple concept. It's about Bernice being really upset about getting the worst soda and the ugly color balloon, and she just grumpy and just miserable. And she did one kind thing to one of the characters, gave them a balloon, and how it shifted her mood for the entire day. So I would encourage you to create a new tradition as a family and come up with ways that you can come up with acts of kindness and service for people in your community. Bake some cookies and drop them off to your neighbor. Write some really beautiful handwritten cards and letters to people who, you know, are far away from you, but let them know that you're thinking of it. It doesn't require a lot. We really have to get back to the very simplistic human nature things that we have fallen so far apart from. So that would be my my last bit. Instill gratitude and mold the attitude of gratitude to show your kids. Yeah.
Perfectly said, Prof. Rayne. Thank you so much. Stephanie?
Just similarly, I want to encourage the parents and I'll say non-biological parents, because I love the uncles and aunts, man. Them really step in sometimes just to really explore your own self-compassion for yourself. And similar to what Rayne said, you know, in a lot of ways, kids learn through our verbal expression of love and community, but also the non-verbal. And so really finding a place of empathy for yourself that you can feel grounded in your ability that, you know, we're at the end of 2020, this year alone, been a lot. And so really sitting in that, feeling grounded in that, knowing that you have done amazing in your journey, and we have so many more memories to create ahead. Not sitting in the negative, acknowledging it, but not sitting in it, and knowing that we can have empathy for ourselves, we can model self-compassion, we can model self-love, even if it's, as Rayne pick up her glass a while ago, even if it's just because you made a cup of tea for yourself today. Yes. You know, just being present with self in that way, and knowing that we have little people who are watching us and who are looking to us, even if they don't have the words or they're not communicating in a way that we would prefer, they're looking to us. So, you know, just be grounded in that. And again, enjoy that journey of self-discovery. Even if you feel like you don't have time, you do.
Yeah.
Be kind to one another. Be kind to the person you're passing on the street. Be kind to the person in Starbucks. your children are watching you, and these acts of kindness can truly change your mood. And I believe kindness can change the world. And I'm not just saying that because I'm, airy fairy, but I really do. So we need to encompass that act of kindness and gratitude for the holiday and see how it makes a difference.
Thank you so much, ladies. Stephanie has dropped her company and her IG handle in the chat. So follow Stephanie. Amazing content. I promise you, rich and amazing content. We're so proud of these two daughters of the soil. Thank you so much, Rayne and Stephanie, for amazing shares and for all the wisdom. We do appreciate it. And you're coming back towards the end, so stay on with your festive look.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
And now welcome on stage the lovely Ophelia Mcknight and Dr. Patrice Charles. And we want to just, as they're coming on, big up Tamara, right? Who won the $1,000 giveaway of credit from JN this evening. Congratulations, Tamara. We're very happy for you. Let me just introduce you to Ophelia as we are making space for this conversation. Whitney's so kind. She's also just celebrating with Tamara, who won, right? So Ophelia Mcknight is a wedding and special event planner with 23 years of experience of bringing beauty and looks to her client celebrations. She's also the president of the Jamaica Wedding Professionals Association, where she works to support the local industry professionals and highlight them in international markets. In her personal life, Ophelia enjoys all things travel, food, and wine. She is a divorced mother of two and lives between Jamaica and Canada as she navigates living in two countries and spending time with both her beautiful children. So welcome, Ophelia. Dr. Charles, we're not seeing you, and we would like to see you again. But let me just jumpstart the convo with Ophelia. So,
it says that the host has disabled my video, so you have to.
Team, are you able to re-establish Dr. Charles's access? Her, what you call it? Her ability to connect by video? There we go, in your red. So Dr. Charles, let me say something to you now. I figure that this is a very busy season for you. Is this true or no?
It is December, and I've been practicing since 2010. And the month, December, has always been the absolute busiest month, always.
Yes. What are some of the major issues that you see? So Dr. Charles specializes, among other things, in trauma work. And trauma, for those of you who don't know, is when it is that our systems experience an event, an experience that is so big, it's bigger than our ability to cope. Yeah, so that's what we mean by trauma in this setting. So Dr. Charles, what are some of the reasons, the referring issues, why December is so busy for you as a clinician?
I think in December, because December is supposed to be that season of fellowship and family and fun and just getting together, for those individuals that don't have that family, or for those individuals that are going through a separation or a breakup or a loss of a job or just something negative in their life, when it happens in a season that is supposed to just be positive, it just creates that feeling of sadness. And sometimes that sadness can become so overwhelming that you can't get out of it and you kind of spiral downwards into a depressive state.
Is there any one of our viewing audience members or JN family or JN Life Class family who would like to share about perhaps experiencing sadness of any kind during this time, because it's a safe space and we're fully open to hearing all of your authentic experiences to the holidays. We're not only here for the antler. Let me take them off right now, as a matter of fact, because we're going to talk some real things for a few minutes, right? So if you're open to asking any specific questions for support, now is the time. You have access to a psychologist, right? And other mental health people who were on before. So Q&As, drop it in the chat so we can give you some strategies. Ophelia, on your end, you are open in talking about the fact that you are a divorced mom of two and you're navigating parenting from across many waters. How does the season find you oftentimes? Is it honestly a chirpy time for you?
No, it actually isn't. And I guess, to a great extent, it hasn't been for a very long time. I think a big part of, or what kind of also plays into my not so happy season, is because though I don't feel that it's not a great time for me personally, but I think it's expected to be a great time for me. So a lot of people see the planner part, the event planning part, and that's all the fun and the pretty and all the things that I do for a living. I guess my work persona, being a mom, being kind of the social butterfly in my circle. I'm expecting to be happy all the time. And that really isn't the case all the time. And I think Christmas for me, it's different things, but there've been things over the years that have just kind of made me not enjoy the season. And even now, you know, being here and with my family, and sometimes it's hard for me to explain to my family, having come back or having moved back, that I don't necessarily want to spend Christmas with a big group, and for the most part, possibly not even close family. And it's hard to explain to them, it's hard for them to understand that. So it causes a strange dynamic every year at around this time. And I kind of get the, okay, what are you doing for Christmas? Or are you going to disappear again? Kind of a thing. So for me, Christmas is when I travel. Christmas is when I run away. It's when I tend to book my trips to wherever I'm going for the longest period of time. So when I get away for like a month or 2 months or so, it's usually around this time of year, because then I kind of don't have to deal with, you know, the expectations.
Yes.
You know, Kamal, that is one of the things that I think what Ophelia is doing is one of the things that I actually encourage my clients to do. She's custom making her life. And one of the things that creates stress is trying to live up to everyone else's expectations. So what she's saying is, I work. What happens to you in Christmas? I do that every single day, all year. So my Christmas to me is peace and quiet. And just, you know, to reset for January again, where it starts all over again. And so it's important not to try to live everyone else's lives, but to try and kind of establish yourself. And that type of secure attachment that we all want to display and embrace is being able to live our truth, being able to express our own emotions and our feelings and be comfortable with it, and not to feel guilty about wanting to take care of ourselves first. You know, there's a reason why when you fly, the pilot says to you, if you're traveling with a small infant or a child, put the oxygen mask on yourself first before your child. It's not because he's being crazy or selfish, it's because if you pass out, you still can't help the child. So it is so important that we embrace taking care of ourselves in spite of everything else around us. Because if we don't take care of ourselves, then we won't be able to reach out to our family members or to assist in the times that they're going to need assistance.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Charles, so well said. And I feel like we have been talking about self-care and giving permission to self-care from like season 1, come all the way down. And it shows that it is one of those skills and one of those practices that is a part of living a winning life, not only during Christmas or the holidays, but just generally. It's a core skill. And I love how honest Ophelia is about the fact that sometimes there can be that sense of guilt around the fact that, you know, people don't understand. Ophelia, where do you think you might be on the journey of letting go of the, am I being unkind, you know, the expectations of other people?
I think I have over the last little bit just tried very much to, for the people who are really important to me, especially my immediate family, just trying to explain to them the why. I mean, there are a few things that have played into it over time. And one of the biggest things is, as a child, I didn't have very much a Christmas, how do you say? We didn't have a lot of Christmas things happening outside of like, there weren't a lot of traditions. There was, of course, Christmas Day and the food and the making the house pretty, but there wasn't a lot of traditions surrounding Christmas in my family. And I got married really young. So most people would, I got married at 23. So that's pretty much literally leaving, you know, my parents' home to, you know, a secondary family, to my own home. And with that came the idea that, oh, now I get to create my own traditions, and now I get to kind of figure out how Christmas is going to look for me and my new family. And consequently, you know, when I had kids, my kids, but it kind of didn't work out that way either. I think I just kind of adopted or was kind of moved into the traditions of my husband's family, who has a great tradition of Christmas. It's just not what I envision for my traditions of Christmas. And so I kind of end up just slipping into that. And I think one of the things too is my ex-husband is the youngest in his family. So I was also the youngest wife. So kind of pecking order came to be a thing. So my wishes or the things that I would have wanted were sometimes I felt superseded by, and then there were, 4 other women in the family who were, and, so those are those things. So at a point it's like, okay, fine, well, this is obviously not going to happen. And again, huge tradition of Christmas. So every Christmas for 16 years I spent with that unit, that group, that family, and just never feeling like, okay, I could ever create something that I wanted to do for my kids, for my own unit. And then having, being separated and being now single, being divorced, it kind of made me take a step back and say, really, well, if you had to, what would you want to do for Christmas? What would Christmas look like for me? And so again, back to your point of having separate homes and sharing with my children, this Christmas is mine, next Christmas is dad's, and so on and so forth. Last Christmas was mine, this Christmas is with dad. And so there is that, but there's also when we get together, the kids and I, it's vastly different. They are 17 and 12. Christmas for them is not the traditional, let's get together, let's do this, let's trim the tree, so on and so forth. Gen Z and millennial children, there's not a lot of what the traditional Christmas looks like that they want to do. It's very, very different. And so we're able to say, okay, I want to do this, I like that. We commune a lot around food and so on. So now it's taking a little different look, better, more comfortable for me because that's just how I am. And when I'm not with the kids, my preferred spending of that time is just in commune with myself. There's been a lot of unpacking, a lot of healing, a lot of things over the last couple of years. And I still find that just spending a quiet day, visiting friends maybe in the afternoon, maybe on Boxing Day, but I don't want that morning, that get up in the morning and do the gifts and get up early and have that family. And it's just not my idea of how I want to spend that day. And it's very hard for my immediate family now to understand, as in parents, siblings, because they want that. And I don't. And it's like, well, why don't you want to spend time with us? And it's not that I don't want to spend time with you. It is that in being in that space, then it becomes, okay, I'm pulling away, I'm in a room, I'm trying to get that quiet time, locked in a bedroom somewhere, I'm maybe on the phone with the kids, and then it becomes, oh, you're always on the phone, and it's family time and it's Christmas. So the dynamics get a little crazy, and I'm like, okay, let's do Boxing Day. Let's just, I need to create that space for myself. And sometimes it's hard to explain, sometimes it's not received very well. And so sometimes I get frustrated and I'm like, why do I have to explain myself about this? I just don't want to. And then sometimes I think, okay, maybe try to explain why I feel this way, but then it gets to be a bigger thing that I might not want to unpack. So it gets testy sometimes.
Boundaries, yes.
Yeah.
I want to ask Dr. Charles to help us with some language, because what I want, my vision for Life Class, right, is that when we come to this space and we leave, we are even slightly better people in terms of being responsive to other perspectives other than our own and being able to support other people. And gift giving is a big part of the holiday season, Doc. But I feel like in this 2020, generosity looks different for us this year. It might not be about buying somebody a bottle of wine. It might be about saying the right words,
Buying
less.
some sanitizer.
Yes.
That's what it's about.
Yes. What we should avoid saying to persons when they're telling us about their needs during this time.
Well, one of the questions that I always encourage people not to ask is, what do you want for Christmas? Just avoid asking, what do you want for Christmas? Especially now, and we cannot ignore the fact that this year is probably harder for everyone more than every other year. There's so many people that have lost their jobs or have lost hours at work, and so their pay has been cut, slashed in half. and they're already under stress just thinking about the month of December coming closer and closer, and now it's here, and they're thinking about buying gifts for their children, buying gifts for their family members, buying more food to cook for Christmas. Parents have already been struggling with providing food throughout the year because their children are at home and they're eating so much more than they used to when they were at school. And so I think one of the things that we should do is just talk about how can we care instead of what gift can we get, what gift do I need to give to you, but how are you doing? How can I care for you? Is a better way at looking at it. You know, one of the things that we tend to do is we wait until Christmas to give or to show compassion. And it becomes a lot easier if you show compassion right through the year. And so you're not in your mind thinking that, okay, this is the 1 month that I have to visit a children's home, or I have to pack up all of my clothes and wait until the end of the year to give it away to someone. If you start doing that little by little throughout the year, even spending time with those family members that you're expected to spend time with, Ophelia, just in Christmas, you know, if you kind of spread it out throughout the year, drop a phone call or now a video call, and so they won't expect everything to happen in just December. So yes, I know now we're here in December, but we have to be a little bit more creative this December. So instead of going over to someone's house for Christmas dinner, what, like even now, what my family is doing, we're already putting together our video, our Zoom Christmas time for Christmas Day, you know, and singing Christmas carols on Zoom and just kind of having everyone together still, because there's just some of us are in Jamaica and everybody else is spread all over the world, you know, and so just coming together in a different way and still sharing is quite important. Another thing that is really important is not burdening someone else with the expectation of providing for you. So Christmas dinner is one of those things. You know what? When they call it potluck, so everyone's expected to bring something. Instead of delegating, hey, you bring the chicken, you bring the juice, you bring the rice. Say, what can you bring? And so, you know, that way they can contribute what their pockets can actually afford to contribute.
Step in, Dr. Charles, because I want to make sure we're teasing out these gems, right? Because you're saying them very fast and like, you know, it's magical how you're just dropping them. But I want us as a family to get them, to chew on them, right? And to digest them before we leave Life Class Space. So the first one I love that you said, right? You said that oftentimes we wait until this time of year before we amp up all the caring and the giving. And if one thing the pandemic has taught us is literally being mindful of that beautiful question, how can I care? I love that question. I'm going to write that down. How can I care for you? And it might look like a cooked meal. It might look like, just check on me this weekend in particular, because I don't have my children. Ahead of time, I can call Ophelia and say, Ophelia, I need you to kind of just send me some love next week. As Monday come, just send me some little something to make me laugh. Just checking on me, right? And Ophelia can say, Calm, I've got you. You understand? It can look like, for example, maybe depending on social distancing and comfort levels, it can look like perhaps taking a goddaughter, right? Stephanie, as Stephanie mentioned, some of us are not biological parents, we're taking a godchild out for a treat so that the parents can have even 2 hours of rest or 3 hours of just unplugged time. So how can I care for you? I love that piece. And the other part of it is letting people lead, Dr. Charles, in telling us what they're comfortable or able to bring to the festive season. So as opposed to saying, listen, Brian have money, so Brian can bring a ham. We don't know what Brian pockets stay. So we say to Brian, what you and your wife can bring to the get together. So continue now, Doc. I just wanted to just tease those out.
I don't know, I'm lost now. Okay, so what was I talking about? Right.
Any more gems? Like how do we support people in a meaningful way and what to avoid saying to persons as well?
And you know, and one of the things that we have to recognize is, again, we cannot ignore COVID-19. And there's so many of our elderly family members and friends and neighbors who we don't want to visit because they're at risk. And they have been so alone for such a long time. And they don't know how to do Zoom. They don't know how to do WhatsApp video or FaceTime video. So one of the things that you can actually do is put on your mask, sanitize, and go to a neighbor and say, would you like me to call your daughter who lives in New York for you? And that is, can you just imagine how much of a wonderful gift that would be, just to connect her with a family member that she has no idea how to connect to. So again, that does not cost, maybe a little data, but the love that will come through that video call would be so worth it, and so much more than buying her food or buying her a gift.
Yes, I love that,
So
Dr. Karen.
again, it's being really creative and being able to care for each other in a very different way. And
to be present and to be more mindful.
Absolutely.
As opposed to focusing on the, what we can gift wrap. These things can make such big changes in people's experiences, Doc, let me just bring up a couple of the comments from our beautiful JN Circle family. So Faith Crawford says to you, the lovely Ophelia, I am so loving your authenticity, Ophelia. Thank you for sharing. And she sends a heart, right? So thank you to Ophelia for adding so vulnerably to the space. Stephanie says, it so resonates, Dr. Charles. Many folks do wait until this time of year to give or intentionally connect. Brian says, profound and eye-opening gems. Chef Theo is loving that suggestion. What would you like to bring, Doc? And Stephanie is saying that this is also so relevant, this idea of how can I care for you, especially for new parents who may need help with laundry or a freshly cooked meal, for example. This can go a long way in giving them a good night's rest, or a moment to take a longer bath than usual, or whatever it might be. Yeah, Doc, I earlier, and even through Ophelia's journey of, she mentioned healing and, just kind of grounding herself as she goes through the rest of, her experience. One of the important words that I'm hearing is healing, and forgiveness came to mind as Catherine and Stephanie were sharing earlier, and the viewing member, the audience member asked the question about what if our parents don't give us the love and support that we need, yeah? What are some of the ways in which we can start the healing process when it is that there are, as a reality, damaged relationships, without overwhelming ourselves? How can we be more intentional about caring for our wounded hearts and spirits at this time of the year?
One of the things that the very first step is trying to not focus on the emotion. Try not to focus on the sadness. If you want to get ahead of it, focus on the reason that brought you there. Once you can process that, a lot of the times what happens is that you feel guilty, even when it wasn't even you, but you just feel guilty. You feel guilty about the extensions of whatever the situation is, your situation would have caused. So I'm not sure if Ophelia would have felt this, but even though she loves her children as much as she did, but just the act of getting divorced and having to separate by miles, that alone will make you feel guilty. And so the very first thing that you need to understand is, towards healing, forgiving yourself. Being, as in looking at yourself from a rational and truthful position versus that irrational thought. So stick to the facts and forgive yourself and say to yourself, listen, this is okay. This is what my situation is. And I know I love my children. I know that whatever it is, the situation that I'm in, it's for the best interest for everyone. And then you take it from there. Once you can forgive yourself, then you can start moving on to resetting your soul. And what does resetting your soul look like? That is taking steps, just like what Ophelia is doing, recognizing that this is what she needs in the moment. So Ophelia is not staying in the past. She's not staying in whatever caused that divorce or whatever would have caused that stress. That's the past. She's not gone ahead, raced ahead of her present moment and thinking about the future and all of the things that she has to do next year and what her children are going to be thinking about if she doesn't spend enough time with them on the phone this Christmas. No, what she's saying is, in my present time, in my moment, I need to slow down and breathe. And then I need to go somewhere where I know that my mind, body, and soul can reset and recover. And to do that, I can't do that in Jamaica because perhaps the phone might ring too much, or she's too easily accessible, or just because she just wants a change of scenery in order for her to relax some more. And so in recognizing what she needs to do that, she is going to do that with no guilt. She's going to do that because she knows that that is what she needs in that moment. So staying in that moment, using Rayne's word, being mindful, being able to take care of yourself in that moment and living in that moment goes a long way to healing.
Absolutely.
So if you find that you're always thinking about the past and you're speaking in the past tense, this happened, and when this happened, and why this happened, and or I wonder if this is going to happen, that means that you've gone too far ahead. So healing means pay attention to yourself in the moment that you're in. And one more thing that's really important towards healing, I call them butterflies. As I think Rayne also said it, is that we tend to have a negative bias. We tend to just like focus on the negative. It's so easy to just focus on the negative. So my little butterflies are the simple things in life that just make me happy. When you walk into my counseling center, one of the first things that you see is do what you need to do to make your soul happy. So what goes a long way to healing is just identifying those little simple things in life that just makes you smile, that just makes you happy. You know, sitting in my sunroom and drinking tea and just looking out. I'm not doing a thing, you know, but just that moment of peace makes me happy. So you need to discover your little butterflies and focus on them. And then that will go a really long way to heal. Good news, and then you have the basic things that for healing, good nutrition, exercising, and I know sometimes it's hard to get into that routine of exercising, but just the good hormones and chemicals that are released when you exercise is really important. And then doing other things that, whether it's aromatherapy or just listening to some good music and just kind of like winding down. Some people just like to Netflix. I mean, I confess, there's a very corny Christmas movies that come on Hallmark. I confess. Patrice and the corny Hallmark Christmas movies, we can binge on it some days. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm good because in my job, Kamala, all I do is talk. I talk all day. When I have like 9-10 clients a day, that's 10 hours straight talking. So when I get home, I don't really want to talk. I just want to take it down a notch and just be quiet and just take everything in. You know, I look around my house and every wall that I look on, I say, thank you. You know, sometimes you don't see that wall unless there's a hole or a crack in it. That's when it becomes important. And I don't want you to, if you look on the people in your life in that way, you don't want to just recognize those persons when there's a crack. You want to acknowledge them even when they're good.
Yes. We take people for granted.
Acknowledge your loved ones when they're good and when they're bad, and it will go a long way to, it won't pile up on you to, oh, I have to go and talk to this person. So you're managing the way you live your life will go a long way when it's time for you to reset and heal.
I love how gratitude is being spread throughout the entire conversation. And as Nakita Mullings, who was our fabulous Dynamo panelist last week, Nakita says, listen, self-care is non-negotiable. Ophelia, I saw correctly, but you're getting a bit emotional after sharing out at the beginning. So I would like to ask how you're feeling now. And if you have any words from your own journey that you'd like to share with maybe someone else who may be at the beginning stages of this kind of friction or misunderstanding.
Just full.
Say again?
Your heart just full. Like you just get it just deep breath.
Yeah, I think a lot of the times, one of the things that I'm mindful of is just the idea, and I guess when I said it is probably what kind of gave me that little bit of choke up, is just sometimes, and I guess I've put this on my Instagram quite a bit over the last couple of months, and I've even had a friend reach out and say, what's going on with you? I've been saying, check on your strong friends. And in a way, it's been that's probably the last thing that I had to let go of. It's like the expectation that you're the the glue, the person, the fun person, the fix-it person, the where everybody comes to person. And sometimes it feels like it's not okay to not be that person, or it feels like it's not okay to say, it's almost like, okay, who do I reach out to? Everybody reaches out to me for the strength. Who do I reach out to when I'm feeling, a little? And the strange thing is, it didn't translate into me saying to people, okay, fine, I need help. It really ended up being conversations with the kids, as in real conversations. I had said last year was my Christmas, and it was interesting because we literally curled up in bed. It was cold. We literally, curled up in bed and talked and talked and talked. I mean, my son just turned 12 this year, so he was kind of at the point where he's always very introverted, but this year he just decided, okay, fine, because it was a while since we saw each other in that space and for that amount of time. And I was with them for almost a month. And it was kind of like the real, as in, okay, how are you doing? Like, he really said to me, like, Mom, how are you doing? Like, we're fine. It's Joel and I here. We have each other, but you're there and you don't have anybody. How are we doing? I mean, he even went as far as, are you seeing anybody? Is there anybody in your space, in your corner? And my daughter is 17, so she's older, and she understands that. And there's a whole different conversation with her, as in, I know what's happened. I was old enough to see that and internalize that, and I know where you are and really, really what's going on, and so on and so forth. And it's creating a WhatsApp group and having literally weekly chats and checking in with them and having them check in with me. And even this Christmas saying, all right, are you guys sure? Am I gonna, I can make a quick trip for a week and we can, and they're like, no, we prefer to have a month next year rather than a quick trip this week. We'll get through the holidays. Are you gonna get through the holidays? So it was more so not having to reach out or not having to explain to each person why I'm in this space. That's too much to have these little pockets of conversation with so many different people. And here is it right in the space. There are two ones, little ones that get it because they know and they've gone through the process. And it was interesting and a lot helpful because then I didn't have to explain stuff. They knew, they lived through, all of that with me. And so they know over time what's caused that little bit of, I don't know, holidayism and just, the stresses surrounding this holiday time, because we've all three of us have been through it. So that's been helpful. So I guess, and I probably, like Kamala, you would know, this is probably the first time I'm saying this out loud in this way. It's something that we've talked about, but it's never something that I've shared. So again, I'm sure some people are probably going to call to say, what the heck, why didn't you say something? But it's the time now, I guess. I don't think I could have probably embodied and unpacked and kind of shared this up to this time. I guess it's just time now where I can let it go because I'm in a different space, different better.
Yeah. You know what that is, Kamala? I'm looking at Ophelia, right? And it's like she's literally growing in front of me, and that's so great because that is what it's all about. And I want your audience to understand that you will heal in your time, no one else's time. And you have to understand and give yourself that period. Like if you come to me as a counseling psychologist and you say, well, when am I going to feel better? You feel better when you're ready to feel better. And Ophelia will speak. She's speaking now because she's ready to speak now. And she's ready to move on to a different level. She's at a different level of feeling. She's at a different level of confidence to even express how she's feeling, which is absolutely great. But most importantly, she's at a different level where she's strong enough to say, I was hurt. I was going through a hard time.
Yes.
And when you're viewed by many as being the strong one, there's also that added pressure of, I need to maintain a certain, I need to look a certain way. No one can know that I'm feeling this way. And I'm telling you, this Christmas, it's your strong friends that you need to reach out to this Christmas, because it's your strong friends that have been shouldering everyone during this COVID-19 times. You know, the one that you pick up the phone and call when you're having a bad day. That's the person that you really need to reach out to this Christmas.
Let me tell you, ladies, this, I believe, should be a television series because I am so deeply moved and grateful for Ophelia's courage to share her story on a platform like this, and for all the panelists, including you, Dr. Charles, for just leaning into the convo with such authenticity. I believe so many people are being healed right now and being touched by this, and importantly, being given the permission to say, listen, as a boundary moment, I am not able to give you what you need right now because I need all I have for myself. And I feel like we need to normalize, we are normalizing that tonight. And in this life class series, the fact that self-care looks like saying, not right now. You know, let me call you back. I can't listen to this story of yours. I can't be present to your challenges right now, and not to feel guilty about it because I need my resources for now. So in wrapping up this segment, I want us to be mindful of a couple of things. Number one, as I see Prof. Rayne in the section saying, it's okay not to be okay. This is one year where we can put that on 15 billboards across the world. It is okay not to be okay. Number two, as we see, I think Stephanie intimating in the chat that all emotions are, no emotion is negative. All right, all emotions give us information. So let us try to shy away from demonizing sadness or demonizing anger. They're all giving us signals that something needs to be addressed. So all of them bring important information to the table. That's number two. And number three, what we're going to do about all of this beautiful learning, let us be the friend to call someone this weekend, put a list together, be as intentional as putting a list together, Dr. Charles, to say, listen, I think Ophelia might need a little check-in. I can imagine that for this particular friend of mine who's away from family or who may have lost a pregnancy or whatever it is, to not lead out with, Lord girl, you must stress out, you know, but to call and let the person educate us about what they need. You understand? To say, Patrice, how you doing? You've been on my mind. How can I care for you? Let me give you back your beautiful sentiment.
Yeah.
How can I care for you? Right? When we're shopping, if we are doing shopping, to think of non-tangible ways that we can support Stephanie, or we can support a small business, or we can support a new parent. Sometimes just a little text message can go a long way. And I'm seeing so many persons in the chat box, Dr. Charles and Ophelia saying, thanks ladies, I needed this, right? And so many other reinforcing messages that we did God's work tonight. Cheering out. So quick final words, because we have the Deck the Hall segment where we're going to put on back our fabulous Christmas paraphernalia to talk about how to set a good table and how to create fabulous meals to entertain our loved ones this season. So Ophelia, final 1 minute word from you, any words of wisdom or love that you want to share with anybody who may be going through a similar journey and not feeling okay to speak up about it.
I just want to remind everybody that it's okay. It's okay to not be okay, as somebody else said in the chat. And sometimes you just need to step back, and you don't always have to proffer an explanation. Sometimes it's not time, you're not ready. And it should be enough for you to say, I just need a moment, or give me some time, or I'll get back to you, or right now, I am okay with where I am. You're not saying, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm great, I'm excited. You're just saying, I'm okay with where I am. I'll reach out when I need, other support, or when I want to talk about it. So don't feel like you have to be pushed, like you have to be on everybody else's timeline, or do what they need you to do. Just be mindful that what you need is what you need, and just take that. And too often we wait too long to kind of take back some space. And it's okay to just, be and do what you need to be and do until you feel comfortable or even safe enough to step out.
Perfectly said, Ophelia. Thanks for reinforcing so much wisdom in that comment. Thank you so much. Dr. Charles, expert, guide, what do you want to leave with the beautiful family?
Say that again, Kamala.
What do you want to leave with the beautiful JN Circle family this evening?
Well, apart from wishing everyone a wonderful season and a wonderful year. Live your life with purpose. Live your life for you, because if you don't live your life for you, it's going to be very difficult to try and live your life for everyone like a chameleon. Everyone you need to change color for, you begin to lose sight of who you really are. So it's okay to focus on who you are and be the best you so that you can support others. Yes. So live your life with purpose and find your butterflies so you can make your soul happy.
Yes, I love that. Dr. Charles, how can our family members reach out to you if they might need some support? Could you drop your contact info in the chat while I wrap up? Yes, so you're from the Phoenix Counseling Center. Tell us how we can find Phoenix. And let me just read.
I'm located in Kingston at 10.5 Lady Musgrave Road on the main road. And you can just look on Instagram, the Phoenix Counseling Center, or Facebook. And you can give me a call, 876-868-3290. Drop me a WhatsApp message or a text message. Don't leave a voice note. And I'll be happy to assist as best as I can.
Thank you so much, Ophelia, who's going to stay on to come show us fabulous tablescape. And Dr. Charles, thank you. I feel so rich coming out of this segment. Thank you for your wisdom and for your heart and for your ears in this beautiful segment.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much. Tamara says, and as friends and family, let me just pull this up. Tamara says, and as friends and family, we need to allow persons to say they are okay or they're not ready to talk or they don't want to talk and not be offended by it. Listen, Simone says, my heart is full. And I saw a beautiful, vulnerable comment here from Samantha. She says, thanks for, so many comments, I'm trying to find them. She says, thanks for endorsing that, Kamala. I was guilty of telling people, especially my family, that I needed time for myself. But I have learned the hard way from a failing marriage. Thanks, ladies. So she's reinforcing the point of speaking up when we need to set boundaries to say, I can't be there, I can't give you right now, I need for me. So thank you so much, everyone. And Celia has dropped the information for Dr. Charles in the chat. Thank you so much. At this time, because we're in the JN Circle Life class, you know how it goes, a lot of giving. We have another giveaway by way of a $1,000 call credit for those who have Flow devices, okay? So take out your Flow phone and see if you're quick enough to get this. The voucher numbers are 60-7463-7855-6718. So quick fingers, let me know if you are the one who has won the credit. And Faith says, thank you for putting this on. What a wonderful session. Thank you so much for your lovely thoughts, Stephanie, Faith. We're now going to, as Dr. Charles is going to be going off screen for a few, we welcome on screen Chef Theo Smith, who is catering executive from The Great House Caterers Limited, and he's donned out in red and in his chef attire because he's bringing the expertise to the space. And we're going to give Ophelia maybe a second because I know you have something special for us lined up. So if you need to jump off, we've got you. We'll welcome you back in a few seconds. Chef Theo, how is the season treating you so far? I know you must be very busy.
Yes, it is a busy time normally. Of course, you know, this year it's not the usual Christmas season for us, but of course it's still a busy season nonetheless.
All right, so talk to us now, Chef Theo. Suppose we're not like any expert chefs like you, right? And we want to create some rich and delightful dishes for the holiday season. Guide us through what your main tips are for people who are not, extraordinary in the kitchen. What are some of your major tips for hosting a dinner party for your family or for your friends this season?
All right, so my 2 big points in preparing for the Christmas season, whether it's Christmas Day dinner, Christmas breakfast, Boxing Day, whatever the case may be. 2 main areas is 1, planning, and the second one is preparation. But with regards to planning, I have quite a few tips.
Please.
Most persons are planning and they're like, no. But here's the thing. Christmas season is a time for you to enjoy. The last thing you want to do is to not plan, try to do something last minute. You realize you run out of some ingredient of your favorite dish, you have to run on the road, or better yet, you realize at the dinner table that, hey, this sauce is missing. That is the worst feeling ever. You want something badly, and the family is waiting for it, and you realize, I don't have it. So planning is important. So with regard to planning, I must say this year especially, a lot of persons have changed their diet. So if you're having family over, it's important to reach out to them, find out like, what are your restrictions? You know, persons are going gluten-free now. Persons are looking for healthier options, so they're looking to have vegan options. You need to consider everyone in the family. So reach out, let them know the menu, find out if there's any restrictions, things like that. People are going keto, different aspects that you might not have considered before, but it's a good time now to go and consider as persons. And next aspect of it.
Sorry, stick a pin. You're saying to me that it's not necessarily the best thing to just put on pure meat and a bag of curry goats and some big ham and just say, well, this is what flies. You're saying we should be sensitive, even in our generosity, to say, how can I care for your dietary needs, you know, as much as you need to. So that's a very important gem for us to ask, you know, what people are looking forward to, what they can and cannot or prefer not to eat at this season.
Yeah, man. So that's definitely important to ask that question. The next side of it, also, you haven't been out as much during the Christmas season. You haven't been out as much during this COVID time. It's very important now more than ever to cook with family. If you're with family, it's a great time to bond. It's a great time to kind of teach your family certain recipe items to get the help. Help is very important. Once again, as I said, this year is a special year. Last thing you want to do is to be stressing about Christmas dinner. Get the help.
Yes.
Someone can go and stir a pot somewhere. Somehow the help is there, and it's an experience. I mean, the experience is the most important part. I know from my own growing up, my mother is not, I must say, most chefs say their mother taught them to cook. My mother is not a cook. She doesn't like cooking, but she taught me a few things during Christmas time. And to this day, I remember the moment of her teaching me these items more than the actual recipe. And it's something that I always remember. So it's a great experience. So as I said, with planning, my next aspect to look at is it's not just Christmas dinner. It's a weekend. So that's the first thing. And we know the roads are crazy with traffic, with crowds, and social distancing and everything. You don't want to just plan for Christmas dinner and then wake up on Boxing Day and realize you only have leftovers to work with now, or you have to go and find the nearest supermarket as it opens on the Sunday. You want to make sure you plan that entire weekend. If you're with family also, more persons in the house, that's something to even consider more. So as I said, planning is very important there. Planning for the experience, planning for all the ingredients. Also, it's a time to now support local producers. Make sure you're buying fresh ingredients for health reasons, for supporting our economy, things like that. You have to make sure you're buying fresh ingredients. And of course, you don't want to be spending too much. So you want to make sure the ingredients you have can be versatile. They can be used in different ways. A quick example of this is I have a quinoa and corn salad, and I normally use corn in a can. I'm guilty of that. And instead of doing corn in a can, what I would do is get a corn on the cob, and I can use it for a Mexican grilled corn one day, and the next day I can go and use a knife, take off the kernels, and put in a quinoa salad. So you have the ingredients, can use around in different ways instead of having to buy corn on the cob, buy corn in a can or frozen, whichever the way you want to do it. So make all this into consideration. I know it sounds like work to put all of this beforehand, but trust me, when you're going through cooking on the day, everything flows so much smoother. So another aspect, as I said, the planning is the preparation. You don't want to end up on Christmas Day telling everyone you're going to have dinner at 3 o'clock. And at 3 o'clock, you're going away, whisking, making sure dessert is ready. No. So the best thing to do is prepare as much as you can before. Whether it's to cut up ingredients as much as it might look useless. Carrot or onions the day before, trust me, it makes a huge difference. So prepare as much before. Right. If there's ingredients that menu items that you can put in the fridge, a potato salad the night before, that's perfectly fine. Save the big show items, the ham, the chicken for on the day. That's totally fine. But getting that preparation. And also remember, that's one of the things I personally am guilty of growing up and teaching others to cook is when you're teaching someone else, it takes more time. Take that into consideration. It doesn't mean you should shun persons out of the kitchen, but have that extra time and bring them in. As I said, it's the experience you're supposed to enjoy the holidays. So as I said, with regards to the preparation, as much as possible. And of course, we want to ensure that for those who can't join us in person, whether it's the Instagram worthy photos, or whether it is the Zoom worthy photos and videos.
Chef Theo, I think you just went mute. I think this device just went mute. Can you unmute, please? We didn't hear the part about the Instagram. Finish that point for us. You're muted now. Yes.
Sorry about that, but some muting happened.
So you were saying that we should be mindful of presentation as well. So planning, preparation, and presentation, the 3 P's of cooking fabulous meals for the holiday.
Yes, yes,
And
definitely.
based on my observations, traffic is a mess already. And we're 9 days away from the holidays. So gather everything that your money can afford from now so that you can minimize how many trips you have to make and minimize exposure. You don't want to have to be in line with 15,000 people at the supermarket, you know, on the day before Christmas if you can avoid it.
Definitely, definitely.
Thank you so much, Chef Theo. We're coming back to you, but let me throw over to Ophelia Mcknight, who was going to walk us through some examples of how to set up a beautiful space for entertainment for this season.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kamala. So one of the things, I'm going to borrow Theo's 3 Ps. So it works just in the same space, the decor space, which you have to plan what you're going to do. You have to make some preparations, and then the presentation. So I know this year is a little different, and so many people are, you know, separated and they're not in the same spaces and so on. So I know a lot of the questions I've had this year is, okay, well, we can't get together. Now what? How are we going to make these moves and so on? And are we going to even bother? Because now who's there to see it? It's just us. It doesn't mean that you can't plan a fabulous space. It doesn't mean that you need to leave it sparse. You can still do very fabulous things on just the things that you have at home. Don't throw out, if you're used to celebrating and kind of going there, still look in your space, look in your cabinets, look in your kitchen. I'll help you to walk through and pull out a few things that you're going to be able to do as well, just to keep that vibe. For some people who are used to celebrating in a big way, who enjoy Christmases and so on, you don't want to let that energy drop this year, obviously, because you don't want to slide into that, oh my God, you know, you still want to pick up the pace, pick up the energy and see what you can do. So again, the prep. So pull out things early. Again, you don't want to be spending too much time moving around on the road and so on. Once you have your menus, you know what's going to happen, you know how many people you're going to have, do some prep work. Take a look at what's around. Do you have settings? Are you going to go with regular flatware and you know, all of the fancy china and so on and glassware this year? Or are you just going to be, you know what, I'm not, but I could go with some nicer acrylic or plastic type things that look fabulous. And there are lots of those, so don't throw that out. I'll show you something soon as well. But it doesn't always have to be the over the top. It can be a little cash. You can blend 2 things. And don't be afraid to mix and match. There's no rules. Yes, there is formal etiquette, but there are no rules. It's what you have in your space, it's what you're comfortable with. And it's just how you want to flow through the holidays. Not everybody wants to have a huge wash up afterwards and so on. So there's that. And try to pick up everything, plan it out in your head, probably do a little quick put down things together so that you know what they're going to look like, how they're going to come together. So, you know, in a pinch on Christmas Day or the night before, you don't have to be running for things. You already have everything gathered in a space. All you're really doing is placing your items. So that's a great thing.
Perfect.
So a few quick tips I want to drop for a few, you know, people have called and messaged, but also just in general. Yes, there are very nice acrylic and plastic-based items that you can have, that you can use, that you can purchase in bulk. I know PriceSmart, I've seen quite a few of those things in there this year, which is awesome. If you have mixed and match plates and so on, don't be scared to use them, stack them. I'll show you how to put them together nicely and you can still use those, no problem. If you're gonna go a little bit more formal and you have those very clean lines, maybe your whites, so on and so forth, great things to punch up any space, are do a formal setting. That changes your tablescape immediately. Set up what you have based on your menu in a place setting. You'd be surprised at how different that looks, how that makes your table look amazing. The way you put your glasses in the appropriate place, put down your flatware, put your stack your plates, put them together. What's also really, really nice, if you can, fabric napkins really just kind of up the ante. It adds a little bit of luxe. You all of a sudden you feel fancy. You sit up a little straighter because you have your fabric napkins and you have all your glassware on the table. It does make a difference. So if you want to go for that little extra oomph, fabric napkins, do a full place setting. Decor, there are not a lot of flowers or affordable probably elements in terms of florals, and I'm talking about blooms now, that are available right now. Some people might be able to pop into a wholesale florist and just grab whatever is there, but if you're not, don't be daunted. Outside, just step outside. A lot of people have a lot of great plants in the front of their yards or just in the backyard. I have a bougainvillea plant outside, and I'll show you what I've done with that. I'm sure you can probably see it from the second picture. But pull on stuff that you have. If you're into herbs, that makes perfect tablescaping. One of the things that you can do, if you have a mirror, stack things on a mirror, put that in the middle of your table. I'm a huge wino, love to drink wine, always have wine bottles everywhere. Sometimes you have some really nice wine bottles, whether it's just black ones or light colored ones or sparkling ones from a particular set. Use those as your vases. Stick, greenery or long, floral elements in them. They come across really nicely. Lay them up like soldiers along the length of a long table, put 2 or 3 in a grouping, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot that you can do. So
we are coming to the end and we're kind of tight for time. If you could show us as you're talking through, that would be good. We can remember the lesson.
So I think what I'm probably going to do is pick up the other phone and just do a quick walk so that you'll see that. So just
okay, sure, no problem. Chef Theo, I hear Ophelia echoing some of the same planning strategies. So I don't know, could you talk us through very quickly while she comes back some of maybe some menu ideas, right? Some meal ideas. We could take some interesting takes on some staples, for example.
All right, so one of the things I must say is the underdog for the Christmas dinner for me is the sides. You don't have to go and do anything fancy, but just try a different side. If you're accustomed to rice and peas throughout the year, try different rices, a rice pilaf. Instead of doing the regular mac and cheese, maybe you want to try a potato au gratin. Another thing is sauces. Sauces make a huge difference. It doesn't have to be on the meat itself, so it doesn't have to be glazed in the ham already, but a sauce on the side. A quick thing to do for me, I always do it for many sauces, is using the juice. Sorrel juice, for an example, I boil it, I add additional sugar, and I put cornstarch based on the packet that I have to just know how thick I want it. And that's a good sauce on itself. Another thing is using jams and jellies. I'll take a guava jam and I'll put in a sauce pot with some water. I'll get it dissolved, and that's good right there. That's the next glaze that I have to work with. So you can use any little thing in your kitchen and make sauces. And as I said, the sides, they're the underdogs. They're easy to make. And I'm seeing Ophelia amazing tablescape now.
Yes. So Ophelia, please talk us through this fabulous deluxe item. Let me put on my glasses for this because this is very festive and I'm feeling all the vibes. Please talk us through, Madame.
Great. So, let's see. I think I have too many.
So we have to work with the tech.
Okay. I think that's a little better.
Much more. Yes.
Are you still hearing me?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. So one of the things, again, based on your menu, just put, okay, let's move over to this formal setting.
Oh, the volume is getting a bit low, Ophelia. Maybe you have to project a lot louder so we can hear you from this device.
Okay.
But I'm seeing Ophelia showing us what she was talking about earlier, Theo, in terms of the formal place setting that just looks so much more luxe, right? I'm seeing some hints of gold, Ophelia, and the floral setup that you were talking about. I love a good metallic vase. It adds so much oomph to a table space, and so many pops of greenery, as Ophelia was mentioning too. And sometimes you have to use some artificial ones, right?
And that can be any element. I mean, that's a vase on, that's a mirror on the bottom there.
Yes.
You just stack whatever you can. I have a wine bottle that just has a few bits of a stalk of orchids, a little bit of greenery. There's something growing there. That's my regular plant that I usually have happening. And what I wanted to show as well, I
Ophelia,
think I might have lost that.
you lost the video on that one.
Yeah, I did.
In the meantime, I'm seeing Jennifer Clark saying eggnog is one of her her staples for the holiday season. Thank you for sharing that. And we just want to congratulate Marlise Malcolm, who won the credit. So awesome, Marlise. Ophelia, are you back? Yes.
Yes, I am.
Mhm.
So it's all of the elements are just set up. These are the elements that I was talking about. They are not China, they are plastic. Those gold elements back there, the gold glasses, sorry, the gold flatware,
Right.
and that plastic. So they're things that they're throwaways. So you can use them and just dump them off so you don't have to worry about doing any cleanup afterwards.
Wow.
So it's very easy to put something together based on what you have available.
Mhm.
It does look really nice when you
And look how gorgeous they are. Yes.
a table scape.
Thank you so much, Ophelia. We appreciate seeing it in live time. So thank you for taking the time to put this all together. And I'm blown away by the fact that some of these are disposable. So we can
Absolutely.
keen eye, we can find really quality pieces to just create a feeling of richness for the holiday season as we're entertaining. So Ophelia, Chef Theo, thank you a million times for coming on to Life Class. Let us welcome back before we say goodbye, Dr. Charles, Prof. Rayne, and Stephanie, just to give some final good energy before we run off. In the meantime, while you're coming on, and we're sending all the love, we are going to ask our tech team to launch the poll so that we can get your feedback as we're ending our life class experience, right? And let me just give you a heads up about next week. We are not going to be, so here's the poll. Please, I'd love to have everybody answer so we can get a feel of how we did and what was valuable to you in tonight's session. So please go ahead and fill it out and we'll read the results in a moment or two. Two important things to bear in mind. Number one, the JN group is putting on a fantabulous event on December 20th, which is this weekend, right? The JN Foundation is leading out on it. And I would love for you all to support as much as you can. It's going to be a virtual Christmas concert. And it's called We Are Strong Together. So JN loves this theme of togetherness. It's called Together We're Strong. It's an online concert. And it's going to be this Sunday, December 20, 2 p.m. JA time, 7 p.m. UK time. And you can check the JN Foundation or JN Group social media sites for login information. Invite your friends and family to log on, right? Here's some good music from the likes of the Mitchells, that's Tammy Chin and Wayne Chin. Tammy Chin Mitchell and Wayne Mitchell, husband and wife. From Tessan Chin, Marcia Griffiths, Kevin Downswell, Agent Sasko, IT, and it's going to be amazing. So good energy all the way around for that concert. Log on to it. And secondly, we're going to be taking a break from live class only for next week, Wednesday. Let me just say, only for next week, Wednesday. Come back on December 30, when we're going to be having a fabulous event. We're going to be setting intentions and visions for 2021. Bring your pen and paper, bring your magazine, bring your wine, bring your good energy. We're going to be setting our vision for what we want to have, what we want to be, right? And what we want to do for our new year. We're hoping for good things for 2021. So bring a friend, December 30, we'll be back in the live class space. And let me just launch the poll results at this time. And then we're going to have a final word of good cheer from each participant. And we're going to say until next time. But let's get the poll results from our tech team up and running. And thanks to Kenneth Holgate, he's back again this week. He says, excellent session. Thanks for the tips. Thank you, Faith Crawford. She says, Kamala, awesomeness. And Vivian Esme says, I spend many hours in the kitchen. This can be overwhelming at times, more so at Christmas. Thanks so much for the preparation tips. Chef Theo, you are very much appreciated in this space. Do we have our poll? Not quite yet. So let me ask Prof. Rayne to give us our final words of good cheer as we close out our space this evening.
Yeah, so just to really encompass the gift of giving and kindness, it's something that I've had to instill in my daughter. She's an only child and can be quite bratty and entitled. I think we are in an epidemic of entitled children in general, wherever in the world we are. And so we're working really hard to talk about, but to also instill what we're talking about in our children. And so kindness has been really big for us. So in the act of kindness, I'd like to offer 2 other freebies, 2 giveaways. So we've recently recorded a 12-minute overwhelm meditation. So in those moments of true overwhelm, this is something, a tool that you can reach for. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. It's accessible to you on YouTube, quick and easy. Invest 12 minutes in your day and for yourself to provide a reset for yourself.
Thank you so much.
This is for Ophelia. I've been so inspired by her vulnerability, and I just want to reaffirm to you that someone who has been in an emotionally abusive relationship, myself, for 5 years, not to suggest that that was your situation, but coming out of that and rebuilding myself and healing. I'm a co-author of this book, Women of Courage, which is a compilation of 20 stories of women who have faced challenges, everything from child abuse to separation to cancer, and put this book together. So I'd like to offer this to you, Ophelia, just as a word of encouragement and just for something to delve into over the holidays. So I will connect with you offline and get this to you.
Thank you so much.
My new
generosity is the name of the season. Thank you so much. Dr. Charles, final thoughts.
You know, I was smiling at when Rayne was speaking. It's because your class has just inspired, you know, just that giving and that caring that we need right now. And I just want everyone to understand how simple it is to make someone happy. It's just by understanding the place that they're in and catering to that place, you know, looking at that place and understanding it. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to care for someone. You just need to spend a little time to understand the place that they're in. So again, everyone have a wonderful season and bring that wonderful happiness that you're sharing with everyone in December into 2021, because trust me, we're going to need it going into this new year.
Generosity and beauty. Thank you so much, Dr. Charles. Stephanie.
Everyone has said some amazing things. I think what I would just leave to everyone is kind of understanding and respecting the importance of connection and disconnection for self-care, for self-love, again, saying self-compassion. So, you know, really leaning to the spaces that feel grounding in terms of connecting, whether that's connecting to self, whether that's connecting to community, to location, thinking of Ophelia, and also honoring that disconnection is okay in the sense of establishing for yourself that it's a boundary that you need for yourself. So I need this time for myself, so I'm not available. And it's a protective quality that we all need to. So wherever you fall in along that continuum, you know, lean into it and just reassuring that, validating for you that it's okay.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your beautiful presence and your calm, Stephanie. We appreciate you. I'm going to ask Ophelia and Theo to pause a bit. Let me just read the poll results for us. Question 1, my mood has improved since the start of this live class. 85% of you said yes, and we're so grateful for that. I now have more ideas for how to be creative in celebrating this season. 93% of you said yes, and we love that. I received resources for coping with any challenges this season may bring. 85% of you said yes, so we did our jobs, panelists. We did amazing, and thank you to JN for helping us to do that. I feel more equipped to support others for whom the season may not be merry. 83% of you similarly said yes, so thank you again for allowing us to do that for you. And finally, I received what I expected from this class. 61% said totally, 37% said mostly, and we will take it. We are grateful, and we are again thankful to the JN group for allowing us the space to do it. Ophelia, Theo, 20 seconds of good share. Over to you.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and, you wanna go ahead?
Yes, go ahead,
Go
Theo.
ahead, Theo.
All right, so the most important thing for the holidays is to enjoy. Don't worry about the fancy menu, just enjoy it with family, have fun, and make it be a Merry Christmas.
Spoken like a true gentleman. Thank you, Theo. Ophelia.
What I want to say is, again, just ask ask if you don't know. Don't assume that because people look a little sad too, that they're the walking wounded, that they're ready to talk to you about it. And because you now have this information, don't assume that if other people say, well, I'm not happy at Christmas, that it has to be a whole wounded session that they need, shrinking about. It just could be that right now at that moment in that space. So don't make assumptions about where they are. Just ask them, and if they said if they let you know that they're fine at this time, just also allow it to slide. It's not something you have to fix. When they're ready, they'll do that work for themselves, or they'll reach out to you.
Beautiful. Let people lead. Let people teach us, and we should be responsive to that. Jadine says, a lovely session, inspirational and informative. Thank you for that. And Sancha says she's so enjoying this series. I'm really glad. Deandra says the same thing. So glad I found it, she says. Thank you to JN. Theo has dropped in his connections, how you can connect with his services. If you want private chef lock services, Chef Theo and the Great House Caterers are there for your back. Ophelia Mcknight and her team of the Jamaica Wedding Professionals. If you want to have a proposal, an engagement dinner, they have got your back. So reach out to all of us in your own ways. Thank you to JN always, and see you on December 30th for another powerful series in the JN Life Class series. Thank you so much always. Have a great rest of the week, and be safe and be happy in whatever way that looks to you. Be good to yourselves in this season. Much love always. I'm Kamala logging out until December 30 or until the concert on Sunday. Blessings all and much love.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Be good to yourself.
All right, take care.
Yes. Thank you, Samantha. Take care, everybody.